First, I just wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about iPads and our iPad deployment and what's changed from this year to last. So obviously we're starting a new school year, and we're getting into this space where for the first time we're going to be using devices pretty heavily in a classroom environment versus a remote environment. So there's a lot of things that we had to change and update, including limiting iPads to pre-K through 1 versus pre-K through 2. So second graders will now have Chromebooks. In some instances, iPads may be used in second grade depending on the school deployment and access. But we're going to just cover iPad stuff today, and if we have any questions regarding Chromebooks, we can address those as well at the end. So a couple things we're going to talk about today. We're going to get to know the iPad a little bit more. We're going to talk about iPad care, which is a big deal when we go back into the classroom. We're also going to talk a little bit about classroom organization and planning for the use of technology in your classroom. Definitely emphasize some pieces with digital citizenship and privacy. And then also just to note some things that I think are highly important. They're kind of under classroom organization, but really I just wanted to draw attention to more classroom expectations and time management as it refers to specific items that you'll have to think about when using your iPad. And lastly, we'll go through blended learning as well. So we'll talk a little bit about the concepts there and what's familiar to elementary, primary iPad users, and see what's been successful there. And Tina could probably chime in later on in the session if she has some more information to share with that. So why iPads? Well, iPads, they really increase the student success into digital curriculum, increases student access to digital curriculum. Sorry. A lot of the different apps that we've done, especially our single sign-on apps, which is our single sign-on refers to ClassLink, which is our single sign-on tool that we developed SSO integration with, meaning that we've connected our data systems in Synergy and SIS to the respective apps like Benchmark and iReady, iStation kind of assessment apps. So those are essential tools that can be accessed through ClassLink, which is a digital tool, which would require a device, which is our iPads for our pre-K through first grade students. This also gives us an opportunity to really expand upon the use of one-to-one devices in the district. And of course, all the benefits that come with that, right? Enhance and accelerate learning, leverage technology, work collaboratively, which is a big one for us personally, and strengthen the next generation skills, also known as the 21st century skills for students. So your iPad has some basic functionality. So, excuse me. I know one of the biggest things this last year was that teachers didn't have the actual device that their student had, so the teachers couldn't play around with like a teacher iPad to get to know the device, to be able to support students at home with their device. So hopefully, as time goes on, we have a more thoughtful approach to that, and you have access to an iPad to play with it. But at least with resources like this, we can look at those different pieces and understand how it works. The basic iPad has a few different things that are kind of essential, which is access to your apps on your home screen, your front camera, your rear camera. Your rear camera is going to be used more so with kids showing their work or recording their work. The front camera is going to be for more video blogs or vlogs, kids talking directly into something via a Meet. Things like that. And of course, you have your volume buttons, your power, your sleep button, your home button, and your dock, which are your most important apps at the bottom. Now, your home screen controls, those are kind of basically just going through your app movement and reorganizing your apps, so students are able to kind of add things to their dock, organize apps into folders, and do different pieces like that. So we're going to go through the actual iPad. So I'm going to present an iPad here in a moment, and show you a little bit of those pieces on an actual iPad. So we just want to kind of go through this quickly. I'll also show you some information on the control center itself, and we'll go through those pieces as well to make sure that kids have access to screen mirroring, recording, all those different things that you want to add to your control center to give you more accessibility to those pieces when you're in the classroom. We'll also discover and work through adding apps to your iPad through the app catalog. This is something that should be familiar to everyone, unless you're new to the district. We do have an APS procured app catalog that has approved applications from our applications team here in EdTech. And so those are available there and rolled out through a system called AirWatch in our technology division. We'll also talk a little bit about camera and microphone use, and specifically around the iPad. It comes equipped with audio and video recording capabilities, and you just want to make sure that students abide by the acceptable use policy. And let's actually take a pause there and dive into the iPad itself. So I'm going to stop presenting here, and then we're going to go through those pieces of the iPad up until that point and make sure that we are covering all those different areas. So your home screen controls really have a few different options here. So if right now I'm going to touch the Seesaw app. I'm going to touch and hold the Seesaw app. And you'll notice here that you can do a few different things with that. But what I wanted to draw attention to is you'll see that those shortcuts right here, you can touch and hold, and it actually accesses a Seesaw classroom, so a student can immediately take a photo and work through those pieces. And it's through the back of my camera here, so you can see my hand. So you can reverse that piece and take a photo by touching the button at the top right, and get directly into your functionality of the app. So a cool feature of touching and holding an app itself allows you to do that. But the part that we wanted to focus on was edit your home screen. So you'll see that option right down at the bottom, second to last. If you touch that, you'll see that all your apps will kind of start wiggling around, and you can move them into different spaces. So I moved Seesaw into my Google folder. I don't want it in there, so I'm going to drag it out. But you can switch kind of the order of the apps. And you'll notice too, like on personal devices, typically you can delete apps. We have a little bit of restrictions in terms of students deleting essential apps that are pre-installed, but they can't delete apps that they've added after the fact. So all the apps on here are preloaded and pre-installed by our AirWatch team. And so basically you can drag this back and forth between your two screens. You notice when I scroll left and right, that's how you kind of toggle between your different menu items inside your iPad on your home screen. You can also create a folder. So I'm going to touch and hold. I'm going to touch and hold this ClassLink app, and then I edited home screen. So let's say I want to create I don't have a folder, but I want to bundle some apps together. What you could do is you can take things like, I'll just take this Find My iPad and Tips and put them together in sort of like a new Apples folder. So you see I drug the app over into the other one, and then I'm going to retitle that by touching in the top menu and retyping this and calling it Apple Apps. And then what I could do is I can drag other apps in there that are Apple related, like my clips, my TV, my measure, my voice memo. But this helps save some space on your home screen and helps organize some information and content similar. So now you have Apple apps and Google apps. So now I feel pretty good with this. So what I'm going to do is touch done in the top right corner. This now just gives you a better kind of overview of or a better organizational feel to your home screen. So now let's go over your control center. So to open your control center, I'm going to touch the top right corner and I'm going to drag down. So you see that? I'm going to drag up again. I'm going to touch the top right corner, kind of like where that red dot is, where it says my Wi-Fi is connected and I have 64%. If you touch right below that and drag down, you get search. If you touch a little higher, you get the menu. So notice that. So my touch, and actually my touch is right about here. So if I'm touching right here, it opens up search. If I touch up here a little higher, the top right, I get this control center menu. You could do some things like adjust the brightness of your screen, and I don't know if that reflects on the actual presentation itself, but my screen is actually visibly getting brighter and dimmer on my iPad. I can also adjust the volume, and I'm going to take it all the way down so I don't get reverb on my presentation here. I can also put on Do Not Disturb, so the little moon. You can you want to make sure that you enable Bluetooth and Wi-Fi for sure when you're in your classroom. If I touch on that area there, you can see that I can turn on and off AirDrop. AirDrop's important, which we'll talk about later in terms of sharing. You want to turn on Wi-Fi. I'm connected to to APS guests. So you always want to make sure that you're connected to APS, because I might actually drop off of Wi-Fi here, so you should be connected to APS Wi-Fi. And then Airdrop is only enabled if you have Bluetooth on, so you want to make sure that's on. Some other things you could do here are open up your photo app to take some photos of our wonderful Google Meet or whatever you're doing in class. Open up your notes from that area. So Notes is a note-taking tool that students can actually take notes in, and that's kind of in this area right here. And then you also have a timer here, or it takes you to your timer, your stopwatch, your alarm, your wall clock. So you can put on timers. This is actually really handy in class for students to time themselves. So if students need to do an activity that lasts 15 minutes, they can start that timer and have it run in the background. Drag it down again. And you'll notice there that the timer's on. So I'm going to actually make that, I'm going to close that out. You can also put it on silent mode, so there's not audio and volume and other things coming out of the iPad itself. And of course, screen sharing, that's the most important. So if you have like an ActiveCast or some sort of Apple TV or a screen sharing device in your classroom, those will populate here, which requires you to have Bluetooth on. So that's how a student would share their device to something else that you have available in class for that to share their learning. So I'm going to go ahead and close all these and make sure that we have everything kind of in order here. And the way I did that is I double-click my home button, and then you get a list of all your different applications you have open. So this is also another feature that you should look at in terms of having your kids close out their app so they're not taking up a memory. Obviously, I'm presenting to this Meet, so I don't want to close out Meet. And I can also touch it and open it up too. And you'll see that I'm broadcasting to this Meet. Now, outside of that, with host controls, let's get into adding apps through your app catalog. So if you scroll, actually, if you scroll to the left here, when you're already at the furthest left page, you're going to get this kind of panel here on the left that gives you like news and screen time and some other pieces that are kind of standard to the iPad. Also, shortcuts for apps that you recently opened. What you want to do is scroll over to your right, and you'll find the APS apps catalog, and that is right here. So if you touch that, it'll open up a web page basically that's airwatch.aps.edu. And here are all the approved apps that are applications, EdTech applications team that have vetted and approved that meet standards of educational use, don't serve up ads, protect student data, etc. So we have an actual app review committee that allows for the processing and review of apps to be allowed, specifically for web-based apps, and then also for proprietary like iOS apps or iPad apps. So these are all the iPad apps. And so down here, like we have a lot of schools. You'll see also too that part of this app catalog, there'll be some items here that are listed that have been installed already. So that's indicated by the green install buttons here. There's some schools that do like robotics and coding and also like some other stuff with Osmo. So like if you need to install like an Osmo app and you have some Osmo robots at your school, or you want to use Padlet, you can simply touch that and install it. So actually I'm going to install Padlet here, and it says confirm installation. So I'm going to say install, and it says processing. And sometimes sometimes it starts instantaneously, and sometimes it takes a few minutes, like up to 5 minutes to install. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And I do that again by just hit the home button. And then if I want to, I can close this Safari tab. Typically, I say leave things open while stuff's still processing or from the app catalog itself, just in case, because I don't know if that actually impacts it or not. So I'm just going to leave that open for now. And we'll give it a few minutes here and let it propagate and install that app. So we're going to go on to another task, but that's how you install an app and via the app catalog. So we'll see how long this takes real time. Now, camera microphone use. You have your camera up here at the top, and you'll notice that it's right here on my menu. So it's just a camera icon. So if I tap that camera icon, I can film things in front of me. And you'll notice you have some options here with time lapse, with photo. You can do a square for like social media. You can do panoramic, where you scan an area. So there's some different options there. I'm not going to hit record this time because I don't want to start a recording in the middle of a meet. You can also turn on HDR, which gives you high dynamic range, so you can get those shadows and dark and light areas all the same. HDR is actually really helpful when it comes to stuff like that. You can also do live view if you're familiar with Apple products. Live view takes a photo, but it also gives you a short video just before the photo of movement, so you see what's happening. You can also do a timed photo, which is right here. And so those are some options there. You can also flip the camera and do a selfie and say, you know, here's how kids will record their learning. And they could also do this via video. So you'll notice here that video is not on my menu. The reason video is not on my menu is because I'm using this iPad to present to Meet. If I wasn't presenting to this Meet, then I would be able to select video and record a video of myself talking about what I've learned in class, if I was a student, you know, things like that. So that is your camera. Up here at the very top, you're going to see this little lightning bolt. That is the flash. So you can toggle that on and off if you like. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And you'll notice right here too that this little area right here, that's where your photos are at. So you can actually access your photos through there. And you'll see that I was taking screenshots earlier of a student account, so I can demo for this presentation today. Up here at the top, you can go to all photos and see all of those. So that's just a shortcut from your camera app to open up photos. So I'm going to go ahead and close photos and camera. Okay, we still don't have our application installed yet, so I'm going to wait a minute. And I hope I don't have to be on the APS network for that to happen instead of APS guest, but I don't think that that's the case because kids had them at home on their own network. So we're going to wait a few more minutes to see if Padlet installs on this iPad. So continuing on, how to use your camera. I kind of showed you a little bit about that. Now what I want to do is just do a little markup. So I am going to use, I'm going to take a picture of something, right? So I'm going to take a picture of my phone, actually, which is interesting. And, you know, you can have better context. I don't have a really great student example here, but let's say I take a photo here. And we're going to talk a little bit about markup, which is a really fun way to do things. So I'm going to take a photo. And you'll notice that right here, my photo shows up as a preview in my photo library. So that's my photo. That's my photograph that I took, right? And notice if I touch this live button up here on the top left, it actually, if I hold it down, you can see it kind of records a short video around it. You see the movement? That's what live is. But anyways, I'm going to use markup. So to use markup, I'm going to go ahead and select edit up here at the top. And now I am going to wait for this to load. And we'll give it a moment here. Okay, now we see all our tools. So right here, we have some quick edit tools for the actual photo itself. We have some items over here in terms of like live view, filters, cropping. So there's a couple different things there. So easy things to do is hit auto, and it enhances the photo. You see that it brightened it up a little bit. Excuse me. I'm going to go ahead and touch these buttons up here in the top right next to done. And then you'll notice that they have the markup option here. So I'm going to select markup, and then markup turns on live photo. Live photos will be turned off. So, you know, basically that live photo that you saw the recording on, that functionality will be turned off because you need a static photo to edit or markup. So I'm going to hit OK. Okay, now you have all these markup tools. So you can get a pen. You can change the width of that pen. You can change the color of that pen and do some cool things like that. You can change the thickness of it and do some things like, here's your home button on your iPad. Pretend this is an iPad, right? Here's your camera up here. Here's your light or your flash. And this is my desk, right? You see, you can do some interesting things like that. You can also use the erase tool. And you can do a selection tool, and you can delete them. You can also use a measurement tool to draw lines, which is kind of nice. So you can kind of rotate that with your finger and draw the line and do some fun things like that. And you'll notice too here, kids actually get some exposure to like degrees and angles. So this is kind of fun to introduce like units of measure or angles, you know, things like that. You can also select other colors that aren't in that regular palette here and start using those items as well. And you can touch the ruler to remove that. You can also add a signature if you wanted to. So if you wanted to add a digital signature, you could do that. You can use a magnifier to look at different areas. You can actually highlight a certain area with the magnifier. Let's see here. There we go. And you can make that circle thicker to really highlight that area. So if you want to like visually bring like a microscope to the photo, you can do that. And then you can insert your signature. So like, could do something like this. That's not my signature, obviously, but I'm going to add that. And you can drag it on there. So actually, you can use an iPad for digital signatures if you want to, but I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Delete. And then you hit done. And then what this does is saves a copy to your photo stream. And you hit done again. And then now you have a photo stream. And you could do this for existing photos, so you don't have to take a live photo. So if you took a screenshot, and actually real quick while I'm on this, let me show you how to take a screen. So a screenshot, you're going to hit the power button on the top right when you're looking at the screen like we are here, and the home button at the same time. And then you'll see a flash and hear a click. So I just took a photo of a screen, and you can actually use Markup. So Markup tools come up right away when you take screenshots. So right now I have a Markup tool. I'm going to use, let's see, yellow. And then you can start marking up things like, here's your doc. Here are important apps. You can trash this up here. You can actually put this little fade over it, which is kind of nice, like a transparent thing. You can share it. You can upload it. Students can upload it to their Google Drive, to Seesaw. They can add it to a shared album, which we don't have turned on because they don't have iCloud accounts. And then you can save to files, which is a file storage on the app itself. But typically, what you want to do is you don't want to share it unless you're going to share it outside of the photo stream. So you don't really have to use that. You could just hit done and then save to photos. Or you can delete it or save to files. So I'm going to go to save it. And now when I go to my photos, I have all these great markups. And I was just reminded too, I didn't show you in docking. So like when you're here and you, oh, there's Padlet now. So Padlet showed up. I installed it, what, about 5 minutes ago. So now it's populated on my screen. But I'm going to edit my home screen and say that Padlet is a really important app. So I'm going to drag this down because we use it all the time. You can drag it into your doc. Oops. Come on. There we go. So I can drag it into my doc, and now your doc is kind of like a place where it's like a shortcut for your important apps. So that's a way that you can leverage the doc to highlight important apps that you need. And you can also alternatively do that as well. So you can hold it down again, edit home screen, and say you want to get rid of, you'll notice right here that I can't, I'm trying to drag out files, mail, iTunes, and Safari, but I can't. I can remove Meet, camera, and photos, but I can't remove the other ones. I can remove Padlet, but I can't remove the other ones on the left though, because those are like essential apps. So there's a little bit of limitations on that with proprietary Apple things. So we'll go ahead, done there. Now Safari, and we'll go back to the slide deck in a second, but Safari is the next one on the slide deck, and it's a split. You can do a few different things, right? So when you open up Safari, of course, you have your apps catalog, and then they have their access to Gmail, right? Or sorry, we have a Gmail tab open here. So it reminds me, if kids use email at your school, you're going to leverage email, I would make sure to install that essential app. That's just reminding me of that. So Gmail is an important app to have. But what you can do here is touch and hold the top right icon, and then tap Open Split View. So if let me get my little cursor here. So if I tap this little button up here in the top right, then you can close all two tabs, close this tab, open up a new window, open up a new tab. So that gives you that option there. You can hit plus there, open up a new tab. You can touch a tab and arrange tabs by website, arrange tabs by title. So there's some organizational features there. You can also look at your bookmarks, your favorites, your iPad user guide, which is a nice little shortcut that we push out. that Apple pushes out so you can figure out how to use your iPad. And then you can do some other things. So I'm going to close this tab. You can also do a little private tab too and open up a new window if you'd like. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do split view. So you'll notice that if you touch the tab itself and hold it, so I'm holding down my finger, I'm going to drag it down, then I'm going to pull it over to the right, and now I have split view. So if you have like a couple different areas, you can actually turn it like this. Let's see if this works in my presentation. There we go. So I oriented landscape. You can do this nice little split view with your iPad, which is kind of nice. And then of course you can search the web like you normally do. You can turn on reader mode. So reader mode is, but there's an option usually inside of your bar here, and it might not be showing because of split mode, but let me get out of here for a sec and get out of split mode. So I'm going to drag it down, and then I'm going to drag it back up into the tab. Well, you notice there that I didn't put it into the tab, but it still has a window open here. So this isn't like a split mode, but it's like a another view for this. Let's see, I'm going to drag it. You can drag it back into split mode there. Let's see, I'm going to drag this down, and that puts it back into split mode. And drag it up and clear it. So there's a couple different things you could do there. And typically the reader mode shows up right here in the menu and it's 3 lines. So you can get into reader mode where it shows text only. And let me see if I can find a website that'll show a good reader mode. You can also look at your reading items. You can create reading lists. You can look at your history. You can add to your favorites. And let's talk a little bit about accessibility. So I'm going to rotate this back over, and we're going to go into our settings. And then we're going to go into the general icon. And then we're going to touch accessibility. And actually, accessibility changed, so they pulled it out. It used to be part of the general icon, and I just realized now that with the updates, or the older updates, it accessibility is its own item on the left here. And then you have a bunch of different pieces here, so you can do zoom, a magnifier. Some more important ones are the speak screen, speak selection. And then, of course, you have guided access, which can actually guide a student's path in the iPad and limit like what they access and what they use. You can highlight content. There's a bunch of different things here. If you want a more in-depth with accessibility, there's actually a lot with accessibility, and the UDL team does a wonderful job at training to this. We can actually set you up with more information with this. You could do like different color backgrounds for visibility. You can change some settings with home button, pointer control. There's a lot of different pieces you could do there. You can turn on assistive touch, turn it off. Assistive touch is actually this little guy that I use here. So that's kind of fun when you're demoing things for students. So a lot of different fun pieces there for accessibility. Again, I think I shared this with you already, but if you wanted to mirror your device, this is kind of redundant, but it's in the slide deck. You can share your device, or a student share their device by using that piece right there. Also with Airdrop is a really fun feature. So when you're in class and you guys create this mock-up of whatever you're doing, so you do some markups, you take some photos, the kids are showing their learning, and what they wanted to do is share this with their peers, is they can touch the little share icon up here on the top. They can also favorite it as well, which is up here. You can touch the little share icon, and you'll notice right here there's Airdrop. So Airdrop is a way to basically wirelessly share content. So I am going to have my phone open here, my APS work phone, and you'll see it popped up there. So I'm going to share to my APS work phone, which would be like an iPad. And I'm getting a message on my device that says iPad would like to share a photo, and I have to hit accept. And it's being sent. Now it's opened on my other device, and then you'll see there that I get a confirmation that it was sent. So that's how you airdrop. It's pretty simple. And you could do that with any photo that you take, which is really handy. So that's just a really quick way to share that. You could also do some other sharing items like I was telling you earlier. So if you want to share to your Google Drive, so students want to back up the things that they've learned in terms of images or videos, they can click share and then click Google Drive. So let's go through that again. So you want to hit the share button up here on the top. So you hit done there. Oh, that's a picture. So I was trying to hit done, which is funny. Okay, so let's see, these are all screenshots. So I'm going to tap on it again. You get the menu. I'm going to touch share up here on the top. Then I get this menu. So from here, you can actually share multiple pictures. So students can also like do something like options right here. And you can do all photo data, which brings over metadata and titles and stuff. But you can select multiple images by sliding over in your file in your photo stream. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit touch. I'm going to touch drive. And then right here, I have these 5 photos selected, and you'll see right here at the bottom, I'm in my APS account, and then I can select folder, my drive. You can also access your shared drives right here. So I have all my wonderful shared drives, but I'm gonna do my drive, and then I'm gonna do Apple, and then I'm gonna select this folder. And then you'll notice that I selected the Apple folder. I'm in my APS drive, and then I'm gonna hit upload up here in the top right. And then now all of those photos are uploading to Google Drive. So another thing with timing, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the meet itself, is you got to allow for this type of work to be done in the classroom, so kids don't get caught up with not having enough time to share these pieces like in class, or like really impacting the wireless connection by doing it at the same time. So maybe try to stagger uploads, or have them do small groups where you stagger those uploads with their learning. Some other things that you could do too. So like if you need to do some cleanup, because eventually the iPad will fill up in terms of storage. So you can, where is my little cursor? So you can hit the select button up here at the top, and you can select multiple ones. So I'm going to select, let's see, I'll delete my ClassLink ones and these generic ones that these ones I'll delete all. So you see the blue check marks here. So let's just say that I uploaded all of those to my Google Drive. Now I can delete them by clicking the trash down here in the bottom right. And then it clears out and saves some storage on my iPad. So that's a good way to like offloading a lot of images and videos to your Google Drive, but then also saving photos onto your, or deleting photos and saving memory on your iPad. So you'll see that I presented from my iPad. So this might be a way for you to demo iPads in your classroom. So say you have a classroom full of students and you want to show them how to use the iPad, but in demo it, you can actually create a meet, have them jump on the meet, or show a meet on the Promethean board and log in as yourself, and demo an iPad through Meet. And a couple different things I want to talk about is their iPad case. So from what I understand, technology is going to be providing a case with every iPad. So a lot of these older iPads have this kind of like foldable cases. So just make sure you keep those protective cases on at all time. To decorate an individual. I mean, like, I suggested this. I'm sure the technology probably wouldn't like it, actually, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. I don't know. I haven't got any feedback on this yet, but I left it in there that if they want to put like stickers, or they want to attach, like tape things on to individualize them, you might actually have to do this anyways with students so they know which iPad's theirs. You may do that just so as long as it doesn't permanently damage or degrade the protective case. So just make sure that you have the case on at all times, and also don't put anything on the case that would prohibit it, and also do not take it out of the case and then put stickers directly onto the iPad. That's important as well. The other thing too is iPad battery. So the newer iPads really typically last 12 to 15 hours without charging. I know that some of the older iPads have issues with charging, especially the ones closer to the iPad 3s and 4s, the older generations. So those ones may really only last like an hour or two, from what I heard feedback from with teachers over COVID. Like some kids had to keep their iPads plugged in all the time because the battery had degraded so much and was really just need to be replaced. So if it is kind of end of life, there is a hot swap option now for iPads. So the other thing, so Tina just mentioned, well, she brought up in a separate time that we could possibly name the iPad. So the way they manage the iPads, I don't know if you can overwrite the name or not, but or I don't know if the AirWatch will overwrite the name of the iPad, but I can show you how to rename it. But if you use Apple Classroom, which I haven't shown yet, that might be an option to name iPads and manage that space. Anyways, for batteries themselves, just make sure that you have them charged. And then this really, it just kind of goes into what's your approach. So I personally would recommend, like, since the littles are going to be using the iPads, that you can keep them at the site and charge them overnight or charge them over the evening so they're ready to go every day. And that might be a good approach to have them access it and distribute them every day when they get into class. Another option is if you want to really leverage flipped classrooms or give them a device to continue their learning at home for other areas or other resources, then just develop protocols on how to charge that and get the students to make sure that they have those charged. I mean, for the most part, COVID helped in that respect. The iPad screen. So this is just information. I'll share the slide deck with you when we're done, but it basically just talks about keep away liquids at all costs from these iPads, keep the cases on them, and never use any kind of like cleaners, adhesives, or even alcohol. Some people like to clean it with alcohol, but there's like a thin coating on the iPad, protective film that so we're basically saying is just use like water and a soft cloth for cleaning the iPad screens, and don't use these ammonia solvents like Clorox wipes or any of those things. They really degrade the protective cover as well. So classroom organization. So really just some things to consider in terms of setting up your physical space is like how many students you have, what are the desks and tables, locations, etc. There's also some issues too with capital master plan in our group that really the architects that work on APS sites have warned against like overloading power sources, like daisy chaining power strips basically to charge these iPads. So make sure you have a thoughtful approach to charging that rotates iPads through and doesn't overload a power access point. Make sure you set up the Promethean or projector next to the teacher desk or an area where it's accessible and can be seen by everyone and you can present to. There are some dongles available for sharing iPads that have kind of this Thunderbolt plugin. So those are available to purchase. Of course, all the dongles are responsible. The schools are responsible for purchasing those. So, but that is an option. Also, if you're going to have kids working in class on their devices, it's probably good to have them use a headset. So we provide a headset to all the schools, but I'm sure most students have earbuds or some sort of headset that they use at home. But there's different options there that you can accommodate students in terms of using headsets in class when they use the technology and have to listen to videos, like if you have a station rotation model or a centers at your school. And then here's just a great example of like classroom organization. So, you know, typically if you actually still have computers, you can use that station to do other types of games, or you can leverage that computer station as a rotation piece. Where like even in the rug center, right, a reading rug center, so you have a group table where the teacher's working, you have independent work maybe in the classroom area, and then you have the rug center and the computer station as like different stations where students can rotate through for different activities. With the EA's help, you can actually accommodate students in a nice station rotation model. And so just a thoughtful outline of your class and how you want to set that up in regards to tech too is important. So iPads in the class. So this is just a great example of like this is something we grabbed off online. It's the MS. This is from a school district, but it's the iPad Oath, and basically it gives some good guidelines to establish with your class. So it's just an example of what you could do with your class, right? So like I will follow the responsible use guidelines. So those are the APS policies and procedural directives, right? I follow classroom rules. So right, establishing some classroom rules would be good. I'll be on task, you know, kind of normal rules, fully charged iPad, school every day, you know. So these are just some examples of what you could do in terms of developing some sort of norms and rules around the use of iPads. And there's also some things too. We suggest letting students sit on the floor to charge as a reward for good behavior, or kind of having a little more flexibility in terms of how they engage with the iPad if they are behaving well and showing good digital citizenship. So just some more ideas there. And I guess another piece too is just make sure that you think of other things in regards to like research or independent work, or even authentic learning as students get more comfortable over time, on making sure that they're taking breaks, they're not Googling answers, kind of the typical thing. A lot of things we heard over COVID too, were students who had a Google Home or an Apple device or a Alexa at home were using them to get answers. So you definitely want to kind of break them from any habits they may have developed in that time. So that's good things to think about. And also have a backup plan when technology is not working, because sometimes our Wi-Fi goes down like it did yesterday. And then lastly, just set up daily routines to maximize time spent teaching and learning, right? So answering questions in Seesaw. So just little tick off activities or opening activities for your class that you can do to get students oriented with their device, and which would include opening it up, logging in, accessing the device, and then going through the activity or lesson itself. And then of course, just standard things like holding it with both hands, don't drop or hit, especially with the littles. They might not, in working on their motor skills and being aware and mindful of those different things, which a lot of younger kids aren't. It's good to kind of emphasize those pieces like food and drinks, drop or hit, hold with both hands, and clean with a soft washcloth, and modeling that behavior for them, I think, is important. So. Now, the other piece too is digital citizenship. So digital citizenship refers to responsible use of technology by anyone, really, and it's to protect your privacy, your online profile, and then responsibly using computers, the internet, digital devices to basically engage with the World Wide Web and others in a social environment, or an independent environment. But it's really protecting your data and being mindful of what's good and what's bad. So. A lot of staff, especially there was a lot of teachers in our tech teacher chat that we have here at APS, where they share some really good recommendations in terms of like doing kicking off the year with a digital citizenship week. So you talk a little bit about media balance and well-being, or social emotional learning. That might play into like how you engage with iPads in the World Wide Web if you introduce things like that. Most of the time that comes later, especially for the littles. Privacy and security. Now that we have passwords that opened up for third grade, typically third grade won't have iPads, but if they do get exposed to them, password security is certainly a thing. But I just like to share this here anyways, because we do have standard passwords, and it's good to be mindful of these things and kind of introduce this to primary grade students. Biggest piece is relationships and communication, right? So communication, collaboration, developing norms with the students, learning how to just be good people and be respectful, and those types of things. And obviously, trends from this last year really show that the cyberbullying or digital drama doesn't really come till upper elementary, middle school, and high school, but mostly around the middle school and a few grades up and below for middle school, where that happens. But these are just good things to be mindful of. And here's just some a few just ideas that may or may not fit in context of your class and the littles, but they are helpful. So again, I'll share this with you to make sure that you have some of these ideas so you can develop your own rules and make sure that you're all set for your class this year. I threw this in here just to have awareness of the student password policy. Obviously, the littles still have a standard password. So just making sure that students who become aware of that, especially like first, second graders that become aware of that and want to try to hack in or log into their peers' password, it's good to be mindful of those things, and then also teach them how to be respectful and responsible in that space. And this is just some more on digital citizenship that has context to upper grades, but I share this with you just for the fact that there might be some opportunities to introduce some of these concepts to the littles before they get into upper elementary and have to actually deal with these things. So maybe having some soft conversations around student safety for sure, and communicating online would be some good ones. And making sure that they can't, students, I really found especially through esports and through COVID, where you have to remind students that there's always a person behind the screen, and they tend to get a little more brave or advantageous when they communicate online. So just teaching those things and kind of planting the seed for the littles, I think, is really important. And then, of course, we have new policies this year. So we have student fines and fees. We have student use of district-issued educational technology. So what I would do is I would implore that you get familiar with a lot of these different pieces, and then talk with your site admins to see like how you're going to actually manage doing the hot swaps and addressing students who may damage or impact, you know, the device itself, which it impact your classroom, right, in learning. So take a look at those as well. And then this is kind of the biggest thing I wanted to talk about really quickly. So just set clear expectations for iPad use, and make sure that you just integrate that as part of your regular classroom rules, like you would your syllabus, or you know, and add it to your wall posters and things like that. We're really trying to emphasize good digital citizenship versus being internet police and being really harsh with limiting access to iPads, because the beautiful thing about technology is the fact that these things are engaging for students and they know how to use them and they enjoy using them. So try to leverage that tool in a way that it motivates and engages the student, but also they do it in a responsible way. So modeling good behavior, showing them how to do it versus removing access unless it's absolutely necessary. And then, of course, you know, anytime things like this happen, you have to follow the school policy and discipline matrix that you have at your site, or that you typically work through at your site at tiered levels or whatever you have. Be consistent and fair and follow through, and make sure students are still able to access learning and participate in class. That's the most important one. As I mentioned before, you know, benchmark and some other assessments, key assessments and benchmark or curriculum resources are primarily accessed digitally, so it's important to have that available to them. And then, of course, you want to be mindful. This isn't like you do everything technology just because we're one-to-one. Have a little balance in your approach, right? So have them access the iPads or unplug from them, and have just a good balance between that. You know, a lot of schools are doing these through like a station rotation model with the use of tech, and they're going back to traditional means of teaching, especially with the littles. They really need a lot of that time. But you can sprinkle in some fun activities and allow the iPad to be a tool for them to show their learning is a really powerful thing. So here's just some information in terms of blended learning. So we have this information on our website, but you'll notice here under the rotation model that the station rotation is basically like centers like we have in our schools. So that's what I was kind of talking about earlier when we showed the picture of the classroom. And then you have different things like lab rotation, and flipped classrooms actually under station rotation as well, but it's just students accessing content independently, which might not work for the littles, maybe for first grade. I think first grade could probably handle it if they're very simple projects like record a video, do a video vlog, or talk about what you learned today, or really just to show comprehension in short readings that they're doing, stuff like that, right? Vocabulary. So there's some options and opportunities for flipped classrooms there if the devices do go home with the students. And then individual rotation between different areas depending on how you want to differentiate or personalize those pieces. So I would ask that you just kind of go, if you're interested in some of this, you can go through some of these, look at these different links we have linked here when I share the slide deck, and we'll get you all sorted there. And then here's just more of the same, right? Here's the benefits of blended learning. Student engagement is probably the biggest. Differentiation is really great in terms of being able to allow for different tools and options and means of kids sharing their learning, and also delivering the instruction as well. And then, of course, student interaction increases. So like if you can start working on the norms of collaboration, the communication collaboration with students, those are really key elements to get them primed for upper elementary when they actually have to start collaborating a lot more and working with their peers. So again, the station rotations, kind of, here's some ideas and a graphic that's on the Christensen Institute website, so you can take a look at that. All right.
Hey, Aaron, I do have a question. I was thinking about my other hat for STC for testing. We got a thing that said we are now supposed to be taking the assessments through ClassLink. Is that also true on the iPad for like iReady and iStation?
Yeah, so the iPad itself will actually initiate, since I don't have a student login to test this and we don't have like active assessments in the queue.
Right.
From what I understand, and I can verify, you touch the app and you open up ClassLink, and then you touch the icon in ClassLink to open up like iStation. And what it does is it initiates the app and opens it up and auto logs the student into iStation, and then they can access whatever assessments they need to be taking there.
Okay,
That's
because
how it
like
should work.
I think the app for iStation and iReady are still on the iPads. Would you recommend removing those before testing? Will that put kids into the wrong testing?
I don't believe so. I actually think that they're required, but I don't have specifics around assessment, because the assessment they just got a new director. They're hiring new people, so I don't know if they're changing their protocols around that or if any changes happen there. But I know that they are still the essential apps that are pushed out, and they are required, I think, on the iPad as standalone apps that need to be launched from ClassLink and then initiate the apps. So I wouldn't delete them, and I think they still require the application, the iPad app itself, to run the program.
Gotcha.
So yeah. Any other questions, comments, or shares really too? If there's something you learned that you would like to share that's really helpful in regards to iPads. And an easy way to, just a quick note too, an easy way to know that you're on, oops, I'm in a Google Meet here still. And an easy way to know that it's the student app, the student iPad or the iPad's configured correctly is if it has a screen in the background for student iPads. It should have the this graphic in the back. And if you do get your hands on a teacher device, there is a way and method that you can basically reconfigure the iPad to be a teacher device where you have more flexibility and controls over the iPad, whereas a student is kind of locked down and narrowed in what you could do. So there's some options there as well, if you do get a teacher device and want to play with that.
I do have a teacher device, but it's configured for a student. Do I need to put a ticket in to say that I'm a teacher?
Yeah, so there's I forget what they call it specifically, but it's basically like equivalent to like an image for like a PC or something. So you say, I think this iPad has the student profile or student image, and what I need to do is, and I'm actually going to exit out of my iPad so I can show you this. I needed to have a teacher profile or a staff profile, and what they'll do is they'll give it a staff profile, and then you have the flexibility to, you'll actually have the app store where you can add apps, and there's some other things you can do with that piece. So it just allows a little more flexibility in that. But yeah, service ticket, AirWatch team will take care of it. I didn't really get a demo video, and I don't know if you guys have any interest in that, but I mean, I didn't have the video option because I was presenting to a screen. But there's not much to a video besides just flipping your screen like you do a camera. It's pretty simple stuff. You guys know that. You could do some fun slow motion or time-lapse stuff with video as well. So I would just say that, and you can also magnify video. But the one thing I will say about video is just be mindful that if you have the kids engage with iPads for sharing their work, just make sure that they clean up their photo stream so it doesn't overload the memory of the iPad. So constantly have the kids, like maybe at the end of the day as part of your daily protocol, say if you've done some work on this and you want to share it, even if we're there at stations, they use their own device, they do the work, they record their work, save it to Google Drive, and then offload those photos. So like make that part of the standard day. Any other questions, comments, concerns, shares? And I know we have about 27 more minutes, so I kind of went through that pretty fast. So if there's anything else you want to see, please let me know. If not, we can reclaim some of our time back this afternoon. So let me know. And also make sure to sign in. If you haven't done that already, so you can get credit for the class. We're going to be posting this video and other resources on our website. So if you want to revisit it or kind of go through some, revisit some of the pieces that I shared with the iPad itself, you can do that as well. But most of the important work that's going to happen ahead is really developing classroom rules, making sure you manage the opening and logging in and accessing of applications with your iPad, making sure they're charged, bottom line. Whether or not they go home or stay in class is really kind of like a school policy or choice. So making sure that the devices are all charged, making sure there's clear communication with your students on how to access and open those devices in the station rotation model or independently. But really, sky's the limit. How to use Seesaw, those types of things. So if you want to partner with our team as well, you can put in requests via our request form, and we can actually go out and help you set all that stuff up as you start getting into the work with iPads. So I believe that depending on what your zone, you'll get somebody from our staff who's assigned to your zone to go out and help support iPad devices in the classroom and set up those classroom rules and help get everything kind of sorted for your station rotation model. And then in the near future, we're going to actually offer coaching. So if you want to develop lessons that introduce these tools, it's really great. And I guess one last thing that I will share with you, since we do have some time, is a fun little app that I really enjoy. So I'm going to open up Meet again real quick and join this Meet again. And give me a sec here. And I'm going to have to actually type this in again, so give me a moment. But I'm going to show you Clips really quickly. So Clips is a really fun tool that's native to the iPad. It's actually the only native iPad app that we pushed out to every iPad because it's almost essential when it comes to like a fun and engaging tool if you talk about student engagement with the iPad. So I'm going to turn off these pieces, and then I'm going to share my screen. And we should see it pop up here in just a second. I'm going to turn off my screen again over here, so I don't take up precious bandwidth. All right. So another fun thing, just kind of in addition to what we learned already, is you saw I organized all my Apple apps earlier, but Clips is really a fun one. You can also do Photo Booth. Photo Booth is kind of like the native app where you can have kids do some fun stuff like this. Like I'm going to take a picture with the thermal cam, and you can talk about some key concepts around heat and cold and talk about thermal imaging and even do some fun markup stuff, if you wanted to, so it's kind of fun. So you can do markup for fun things like this. You can have them draw pictures or do profiles. So like another fun activity that Apple likes to do, that actually the Apple company likes to do, is they leverage tools like Clips or Photo Booth to do fun pictures and profiles. You can actually switch this. We can do profiles, side profiles, and then decorate your face and put some and that probably didn't take a great picture, but you can do some fun things where you can have the students add or mark up the picture with things that show interest. So do kind of like an icebreaker and getting to know each other. Clips is a really great tool to record things with. So Clips is kind of fun in terms of doing short little videos in class. And here we're just getting this kind of little demo here. There's a few different things you could do here. You can access your library and mark up existing photos with filters and emojis. I drug a diamond on here. So this might be a way for kids to do some fun stuff with their actual photos themselves. And say do an expressive art piece to talk a little bit about yourself and then explain to the class. So these are fun little kind of activities and icebreakers you could do. You can add some fun emojis here, stuff like that. So just some different things you could do with actual accessing your library. You can create posters, right? So you can have them explain their work. So say, let's just for the generic example, talk about your favorite holiday. And what do you like about that favorite holiday? You're talking about cultural awareness, and you're talking about students understanding you know, different cultures and their peers and where people come from. A good one would be like, okay, talk about your holidays, talk about the things that you like to do with your family, talk about what you enjoy of that. So you could do fun little posters like this, where you can, you know, add your favorite holiday or whatever, and or whatever you like. Really, it's really just sky's the limit on this piece. You could do dictation. You have to enable it in your system settings. It's down here at the bottom. So that's an accessibility feature. Oops. I'll close out this. You can also record some video. So I'm actually going to get out of here. Oops. These are your little guides here for your gestures and your home controls. So let's go back here. Oops. We'll go back to camera. So I'm going to create a new project. You can also add music to it if you have music or soundtracks on here. Also, I don't think that there's I don't know what music you have access to on here. There might be some stuff you can do. I've never actually added music to this in a while, so I didn't know if this was still available or not. But you can add music. Obviously, we don't have iMusic subscription on these student iPads. Recording is, oh yeah, I forgot. I can't do a video on this again because I'm presenting it to you guys. But you can actually do a recording right here by clicking this little button down here or holding down this. This is why I'm like, why isn't this working? But I'm presenting it to you. But you can do, you can use your camera and record live videos and then mark up the video with all these different pieces. So you can put text into here. So I'm just gonna have to do a photo again. And then I'm gonna have to add, like, you can add some texts or some cool little options like this. But it's just really a fun, it's not a video, so I can add it. So let me go here. And the way I access these emojis and all this stuff is through this little star right here in the bottom right. And you can put whatever text or stickers you want on there. All those, you know, more filters if you like. So that's the gist of it. That's about the most I can do outside of just photos, because it doesn't allow me to do the video since I'm presenting here. But then when you're done, you can share this. So you can save the image. So I'm clicking on this little share button down here in the bottom right. You can save the image, or you can add it to Seesaw, or you can add it to Drive, right? Someone added to Mr. Jaramillo's class, and I'm adding it to the sample student. So you can add fun photos to the classes, like a journal entry, or you can save it to your photo album, your library. And when you go into your library, that item will be there. So just another way to share things you create. But these are fun little creation tools that you can leverage with your students. Photo booth fun. You could also do voice memos. See, recording is disabled because I am on a call presenting my iPad. So, but students can actually record their voice. So if you want to just have students record anything related to a lesson, just talking about what they learned or explaining something verbally, this is a really good tool to use, as voice memos. You also have a measurement tool, which is kind of fun. So let's see if this loads here or not. It might not work. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So I am going to, oh, that's interesting. It's not showing on the presentation in Meet, but it's showing on my computer. It's a measurement tool where you basically scan something. Oh, there it is. It's just delayed a little bit. And then, of course, if you're going to use Google, you have to use the proprietary iOS or iPad app to access Google Drive, Google Classroom, Google Chrome. So if you want to use the Chrome browser to track like what a student's browsing, I would actually prefer that versus like a Safari. And use Google Chrome. You can also access Calendar. Drive's the big one, I think, for organizing files. So just a little extra there. So I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. Stop presenting.